Hello dear students, today's lesson is simple present tense, auxiliary do, compound sentences with and but, types of verbs. Let us start. Let's start with the definition for this tense. This tense is a verb tense used when the action is general. For example, they enjoy watching horror movies. The action happens all the time or habitually in the past, present, and future, so it's not restricted for one time, even if it is in the present time. For example, the football team plays in the club, which means that this football team always plays football in the club, not only today, not only in the past, and they will do that in the future. So it is a habitual event. Also, this tense is used when the action is not only happening now. For example, Clark works in this company, which means that Clark works in this company not only today. It's something, not continuous but factual. The statement is always true. This is another and a very important use for this tense, or it is a scientific fact. When we express scientific facts, we always use the simple present tense. Why? Because scientific facts are not restricted with the tense. They are true all the time, in the past, in present, and in the future. That's why we use the simple present tense to express factual, scientific facts, actually. For example, the earth revolves around the sun. How to form the simple present? In the simple present, most regular verbs use the root form, except in the third person singular, which ends in s. So we use the basic form of the verb without any additions, unless we are having the form of the third singular, when we use the third singular s and add it to the root of the verb. So we get the verbs in first person singular. We have verbs like I write. With second person singular, we have verbs like you write. With third person singular, we add s. We add s with he, she, it, or any singular nouns. So we have writes. We add the s for the root of the verb. We also have first person plural. We have we write. Second person plural, you write. Third person plural, they write. Let us take a look for the table at the beginning of the video. We have the components of the sentence in front of you. We have the subject slot, the verb slot, and the complement slot. We use the item complement in order to show that in the complement we have more than one slot. We may got an object, a place expression, a time expression, etc. That's why we refer to the rest of the sentence after the subject and the verb with the word complement. In simple present tense, you can see that we have a subject, we have a verb, and in the verb slot we have the basic form of the verb, and in the complement we may got an object, we may got a place and time. Let us take a look at the time. In time expressions, we use expressions that refer for the event and how it happens regularly, always, usually, most of the time. We have time expressions like at 7 o'clock, at 8, every day, daily, from time to time. For the subject, we may got the noun like Jack, the Allens, students, or we can get the pronouns like he or we, she, I, etc. At the verb slot, we can get the verb without s like in have, go, play, and we can have the verb when we add the third singular s like lives, gets, causes, speaks. Pay attention for the type of the sentence. Some of these sentences refer to habitual facts or actually habitual events, like the personal habits that a person do all the time. Like the first sentence, Jack lives in a dormitory. In this sentence, we have the subject, the verb, and we have a place expression in dormitory or a place adverb. In the second one, he gets up at 7 o'clock. This is also a habit according to Jack. And in this sentence, we have only a time expression or a time adverb. The Allens have breakfast at home at 8. This sentence also expresses the habits for the Allens family. In this sentence, we have the subject, the verb, and in the complement, we get the object, time expression, and place expression as well. Also, we have sentences that express scientific facts like wind causes waves. الرياح تسبب الأمواج. This sentence expresses a scientific fact. Let's move for another, we can say, item, and how can we get negative and question forms of this tense out of this tense. As you notice, this tense is formed by using the main verb alone without any auxiliary verb. So when we use not in order to make the negative, we use do and does plus not plus the root form of the verb. So if the verb contains a third singular s, it is removed in the negative form because the s moves with the do. It becomes does. You can also use the contraction don't or doesn't instead of do not or does not. So we have sentences like Bill doesn't live in a dormitory, he doesn't have classes on Tuesdays, Jack and Bill don't work in the lab on Saturdays, doctors don't waste time with emergency cases. As for questions, we have two types of questions. We have yes-no questions and information questions. With yes-no questions, we also don't have an auxiliary within the sentence. That's why we use verb to do. With this tense, we use do and does. Does comes with verbs that contain third singular s, and do comes with the rest of the verbs. In order to make yes-no questions, we put this auxiliary verb at the beginning of the sentence before the subject. And for information question, we also do that. We put the auxiliary verb before the subject and we put the question word at the beginning. Pay attention when you put or add a question word at the beginning of the sentence. You need to pay attention that you have removed the thing or the person or the time or the place you are asking about from the sentence before you change it into a question. So we get sentences like, I live in New York, where do you live? This is an information question. The moon goes around the earth. How does the moon move? John drives a taxi. What does John drive? He does not drive a bus. What doesn't John drive? We meet every Thursday. When do you meet? We do not work at night. We can get a yes/no question here. Do you work at night? Don't you work at night? Pay attention. I can use the auxiliary with the negative or without the negative. I play football. Do you play football? Yes, I do. No, I don't. So the answer will be also by using the auxiliary verb do. So either affirmative, yes, I do, or negative, no, I don't. Pay attention for changing the pronouns from I to you or for other pronouns according to the sentence. In this lesson, we learn something about pronouns In the first lesson, we learned about subject pronouns. In this lesson, we take object forms of pronouns, like me and us. For example, she gives us book, or a book, or the book. We have pronouns like you. I hand you the letter. They mentions you. My brother buys you a gift. You here refers for singular and plural objects. We have pronouns like him, her, it, them. Also, they are used as an objects. The teacher lends her or lends him, them, the book. Never use a third person pronoun without first mentioning the person or thing to which it refers, which means we do not use pronouns unless we have mentioned the name in a previous sentence, like Betty knows the boys, she likes them, she studies with them. I used them because I have mentioned the boys earlier in the object slot. Let's move for conjunctions or compound sentences. How do we combine sentences together? The first way we use and but. And is used to indicate connection or addition, especially for items within the same class or type. It is used to join sentence elements of the same grammatical rank or function, which means that and is used to join sentences, to compound or to conjunct sentences if they are similar according to negative or affirmative. They are both affirmative or both negative. They are from the same tense, and in addition to that, they have the same regular meaning or parallel meaning. For example, they sit down and they keep quiet. The sun is hot and they get tired. The horse stops and it refuses to move. If you pay attention for these sentences, you will see that all the sentences are the same rank or the same grammatical type. All of them are affirmative. That's why we used and to join them. As for but, it is used to join contrastive patterns, affirmative and negative. So, when the sentences contrasts, one of them are affirmative and the second is negative, we join them by using but. It is used for joining two ideas or statements when the second one is different from the first one. So, also, if they are the sentences, they are both affirmative, but the meaning of one of them contrasted with the second meaning, and this way we also use but. Pay attention for the following sentences. We make good progress, but we still got a long way to go. So, although we have made a good progress, we still got a long way to go. So the ideas in the two sentences are not the same. Anna is a good girl, but she's rather lazy. So instead of being a good girl, she is lazy. The meaning contrast in the two sentences. I love fruit, but I am allergic to strawberries. So although I love fruit, I have allergy to strawberries. So the second sentence contrasts with the first one in the meaning. That's why I used but to join them. So let us learn something about phrases. Phrases are small group of words that together form a meaningful unit within a sentence. A phrase doesn't have a subject and related verb. Previously, we have studied adjectives, nouns, adverbs as singular words. Adjectives like tall, short, fat, thin. Nouns like we can say door, window, house. Adverbs of time like today, yesterday. Adverbs of place like far, close. Maybe we can say outside. All these are words, singular words. But here we move for phrases, group of words that are together forming a unit and function in a sentence as an adjectival phrase, as a noun phrase, as a time phrase, as a place phrase, etc. Place phrases usually introduced by prepositions, and that's why we call them sometimes as prepositional phrases. For example, in a sunny laboratory, at the movies, in the library, at home. Time phrases, they are also words that show the verb tense, a group of words. When it happened, so it is used to show when the verb happened, so it expresses time expressions, and they work as adverbs of time. For example, in the morning, at night, in the afternoon, on Saturdays, so all these are time phrases. Now we have verbs with prepositions. Sometimes we get the verbs within the sentences, but they are not alone. They are added, or we add for them additional words or articles or prepositions. Here we have verbs with prepositions like agree with, listens to, thanks for, prepare for, suffer from, smells of. Pay attention, when we add prepositions for these verbs, the meaning of the verb stays the same, or keeps the same meaning without any difference. But sometimes when some verbs added to prepositions, the meaning differs. So we need to pay attention for this difference in meaning. In this situation, we have phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are different from two-word verbs. Why? Because phrasal verbs have different meaning than verbs with prepositions. Pay attention. Break in. In is a preposition, but break in, when we add in for break, we get a new meaning. Break mean يكسر، بينما break in force entry to a building, which means يقتحم. Blow up, blow alone means ينفجر أو بالأحرى يضرب، بينما blow up معناه ينفجر. Catch up, get to the same point as somebody else. Count on somebody, rely on. So you can see that the meaning of the phrasal verbs are different from the meaning of the singular verb alone. That's all we have for today's lesson. Thank you very much for listening. I wish you all the best, and we will meet again in a new lesson in the future. Thank you very much.